It happened one night in 1982. A plane slides off an icy runway at Logan Airport and into the water.
All of the passengers get out except for a father and son, Walter and Leo Metcalf of Dedham. To this day, they have not been found. Tonight, I look back at a terrifying night and the agony still facing one family. This is what Logan Airport looked like the night of January 23rd, 1982, when World Airways Flight 30 skidded off the runway and into the icy Boston Harbor. It's been almost 15 years, but seems like yesterday to Audrey Metcalf.
I was with friends, and I just couldn't believe it. And then I said, gee, my father and brother were coming home, but they were flying on People Express and not World Airways.
Walter and Leo Metcalf of Dedham were on their way home from Florida.
I called my father that night because he was supposed to be in, and there was no answer.
The airline said 196 passengers were aboard Flight 30 and all were rescued.
People were congratulating one another because we had a major crash, obviously, but the feeling of having gotten everybody accounted for with no serious injuries, people felt very good about that.
As Massport and World Airways patted themselves on the back, panic set in at the Metcalf home, where Walter and Leo were still missing.
I called every hospital in Boston. I called every train, everything, anything possible to find them.
The next morning, safety officials got their first good look at the plane. You wonder how anyone sitting here could have survived. As investigators tried to piece together what happened, Audrey Metcalf grew more convinced her father and brother were on the World Airways flight. For days, she desperately tried to reach someone at the airport, but no one wanted to hear her story. 3 days. What were those 3 days like for you?
It was that nobody believed me. Nobody believed what I was saying was the truth.
Finally, 3 days after the crash, someone listened to Audrey Metcalf, and in a bizarre twist, the airline changed its story. This is how WBZ reported it.
Just now we are learning that it looks like a man and his son, 2 men from Dedham, are now fatalities because of that Saturday night crash.
A recount of airline tickets proved Walter and Leo Metcalf were on the flight after all. Also found a travel bag and passport.
I'll never forget the gentleman who walked in, and he had my dad's passport in his hand. He said, is this your father's picture? And I said, yes. He said, well, we assume now that they are on that plane. And then he walked out the door.
Divers tried searching for Walter and Leo Metcalf, but it was too late. Ironically, the men were scheduled on another airline that night, but changed planes the last minute. They also changed seats, moving to the front row, the same spot where the jet split in two. Audrey says neither man knew how to swim.
You think this case can ever be put to rest?
No. Not when you lose somebody like that. I don't think you'd ever put anything to rest. We believe in burying people in a grave, which now I've come to believe that they are buried at Logan Airport.
There are 2 theories as to why the bodies of Walter and Leo Metcalf were never recovered. The first is that the strong current carried them far out into the ocean. And the second theory, the one that Audrey Metcalf believes, is that as crews worked to get the plane out, her father and brother became buried deep in the mud there.
Oh, I remember that well. Jack, why didn't the Metcalfs show up on the airline's passenger list?
Very interesting. There was a wild snowstorm all along the East Coast that night that canceled many flights. Walter and Leo Metcalf switched airlines, presumably to get home early. The computer apparently never had them listed on the World Airways flight. Their names were not found until a ticket search was done by hand.